Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Market Trade Group, and this is your end of day, end of month, end of quarter recap for March 31st. Risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice for recommendations. And yeah, so month end, quarter end, some volatility, pretty big end of day market on close and balance. I think it was something to the effect of like over $10 billion to sell. So, why do these guys do this the end of the month? Wait to the end of the month, end of the quarter to make their changes. I don't really have an answer for you. It's just something that they like to basically make these changes right at the end of the month, and obviously end of quarter too. And then sometimes they go right back and they start buying them back in the beginning of the month. So to be honest, I never really understood that. But these are the market mechanics that we have to deal with, right? We can't argue with it. It just is what it is. This was a main message that I said in I think it was I provide two weekend videos, and I think I forgot to mention it in the macro video, and I may have mentioned it in the beginning of the watch list video, that this is often the case that in addition to the either the selling or the buying, which a lot of times it's the selling at the end of the month and end of the quarter, just in general, the last week of the month for me, because I'm mostly playing things on the long side, there's just more volatility the last week. So it's more of a difficult trading environment, choppier. And then the first couple of weeks of the month are a bit easier when there's new money put to work. So we talked about that. I even for a while last year was sending the data out, the difference between the end of the month and the first of the month. And there's a stark difference. And it's not 100%. It's not it doesn't happen every month and every first, and every first of the month. But on average, there is a big performance difference between that number, right? So for example, I think last month, the end of month was to buy. We heard that there was going to be some portfolio shifting. And I think last month we actually rallied. So that was one of the few cases that was a little bit different, right? So again, there are exceptions, and, it depends what these pensions and money managers really want to do. But they wanted to sell all at once, tied to the last print of the day. So just bear that in mind. I have a chart of the VIX up in front of you because I know sometimes these things look scary when we see these big sell programs. And by the way, I basically was talking till I was blue in the face all week long. I think I said it in every video that you may get some volatility, some sell programs. I think specifically what I said today was watch the lows of the day as well as the close. And I actually did hedge that move. I didn't buy any options or anything. I just bought some SQQQ, short the Qs 3 times levered, and made a little bit of money on that. I'm surprised I actually didn't make more on it, but it is what it is. So yes, the VIX, you could see it's a little move from the lows. It's actually really not that big of a deal. You could see the market breadth that was also kind of gave us a hint for the day. We'll now look at the S&P, but if we go over the 5-minute chart, we'll start with the short-term time frame first. But you could see that that this was mixed in the beginning of the day when we look at our market breadth indicator, right? And then you could see it get worse and worse and worse as the selling pressure increased. But this little hint in the beginning of the day, and it's kind of I do these little videos now because you could do that in Slack. Which is, I think, pretty useful. I'll give kind of the market rundown and some kind of thoughts. And, here I was indicating, 10 o'clock in the market, that the breath was stinky, not good. Again, that gives me a really good clue for the day based on if it's going to be a strong momentum day to the upside, or if it's going to be a choppy day, or if it's going to be something like it was today. And that worked out pretty well. Again, you could kind of see, right, that every time that we try to rally today, you could tell that there was just too much selling pressure. All right. But again, keep in mind 1 day. So let's bring it out a little bit of a bigger picture, right? When we look at the 1 hour chart, that might help a little bit, right? 1 hour chart, you could see that we didn't really break any support on the 1 hour, right? This is basically where we were on Monday, right? And then we rallied from there. So all in all, like if you feel like you lost some money today, or if it felt dramatic, I wouldn't be all that worried about 1 day. What I would be watching is, we are going to have a new month, and I'm really kind of interested to see if we're going, like, how deep this move is. Right now, we started to kind of turn and had a reversal day yesterday, so that followed through to today. Will we kind of move back? Here's the top of value, which is going to be all the way down here. So will we maybe find the 200-day moving average? Will we actually rebound a little bit tomorrow, being that it's first day of the month and that we've got a pretty strong seasonal month? It could be, right? It could be. And I'm kind of open to all possibilities. All right. So that's what I see on this. Right. And if we look over at the weekly chart too, considering we did this all backwards, right? We have not made it through to either side. Could we turn back and start heading down? Again, I'm open to all possibilities. And I think the 200-day moving average will be something interesting to watch. NASDAQ, it did not break back above the 200-day moving average. So I think I would be more worried about the Qs and NASDAQ, showing a little bit more weakness. And, I think that'll be really telling in the weeks to come, right? IWM, right, as well, negated that whole move that I talked about earlier in the week. All right, so NASDAQ was down 1%. Sorry, IWM was down 1% for the day, and basically filling that gap that we saw from that gap up. All right, so that's that. A couple other points I keep hearing. So I wanted to kind of, being that there's really not that many great setups to go over. I'll go over a couple things that I thought were interesting, but I keep hearing this. Hey, well, was this a big bear market rally? I think it depends on the stock, right? I was listening to, I think it was Stephanie Link on CNBC talking about how it's a stock pickers market. I think definitely, I think it will be a stock pickers market this year. We know that all the commodity moves, trades, right? Energy, metals and mining, agriculture. That's not a bear market rally. That's, very strong uptrending bull market charts. But other areas of the market, they may have had a bear market rally, right? One of the stocks that I talk about all the time because it gets so much attention on Twitter is PayPal, right? PayPal, I think it had a bear market rally. So there's going to be a lot of stocks like this, a lot of stocks from, Netflix, right? I think it had a bear market rally to it. Now, where it would prove me wrong is if it gets above the 50-day moving average, and then I would change my opinion a bit, right? I looked at Square earlier in the week. I was giving kind of Square the benefit of the doubt, still above the 50-day moving average. So we'll see if that holds up a little bit better. But that's how I would kind of think about it. So don't get, in my opinion, don't get caught up in this bull market, bear market bounce. Know where the strength is in this market and be able to kind of read a chart. And I would say stick with the areas that are showing strength right now in this market. Another thing that I think more people kind of finally realized after several days of rally is how strong these utilities have been. Think about, I know what I always find interesting with this market is people think that they're able to use logic in this market and say, okay, well, if interest rates are supposed to be going up, right, that means logically that people would put their money back, back into treasuries to get the higher yield, and yield proxies like utilities, like REITs would be going down, right? Because a lot of times what happens theoretically is investors go into utilities and REITs when they can't get any good yield in the market. So, what do you think this is telling you, right? Is it just that people want to be in the safety of utilities, or do you think there's something going on with interest rates? Right. I mean, I'm guessing that people want to be more in utilities just because it's a low volatility area of the market, right? Not so much because of the interest rate component. I mean, or it could be that nobody believes that the Fed is actually going to be raising interest rates as many times. PPH is another one too. This is the pharma ETF, right? Don't try to tell me that this is a bear market rally when it's at 50, when it's at all-time highs. Okay. But again, it's not, as far as, traders on Twitter, they're not looking for, most of them are not looking at pharma stocks, right? They're looking at, high growth areas of the market, things that are more interesting, right? I get it. REITs are also showing some strength too, even though they went down as much as the market did. But that's another. I keep seeing more real estate investment trusts coming up on my scans. So again, I'm not sure I would want to be in this group. I've looked at a couple of these areas of the market, but it's tough to be. You do have to have conviction, right? So, even though that, an area of the market is trending well and acting well, you still have to really kind of like the trade. And if you don't like the trade, what's going to happen is that you'll get out as soon as you see a red tick in the name. So, yeah, so be careful with that. You do have to kind of like really convince yourself that you like the stock, and that kind of helps stay in it. So what else did I want to talk about today? I think just watch some of these moves. I was looking at Amazon. Notice Amazon took out this virgin point of control and faded. It was I think it was up, but we'll see how the overnight session goes. We'll see how much this move comes back. We'll start with LAC. LAC was up 4.4%. That was a name that we talked about yesterday. Had some nice follow through on this one. Certain groups of the materials, the commodities remain very strong. A couple names that I'll be watching for tomorrow. A little bit of the solar names. I would like to see this group get going. ENPH was up 2.6%. So nice relative strength. What I'm looking for in ENPH is to see if it can get out of the value area for the year, right? That's just above 200, right? The cyber names also acted very well today. Checkpoint, right? I always get this symbol wrong for some reason. Oh, what is this thing here? It should be in here. Where's my news channel? Oh, I can't find it. CHKP. There we go. There we go. So weekly chart looks very good, right? You got an inside week, right? And again, this is not, so again, didn't, with everything else kind of gave back the gains, but this would be a nice one to watch, as well as Palo Alto, which gave back some gains as well for the day, right? I started a position in this, gave back the gains, but it doesn't lose the trend. So, I'm okay with that one. Other things that I did today in terms of trades, some day trading. Deer, I took advantage of the dip in Deer today, although I think Deer gave back those early gains, but that's okay. I like going after. I've been watching Deer for a while, and I'm long in the TTG trend portfolio. I should do a video based on that, by the way, why I have a portfolio of names, right, to hold for the trend, for more of like geared towards longer term versus what I'm doing in my trading account. But in my trading account, I did establish a position in Deer here on the dip. All right, guys. So that's it for today's video. Keep it right, nice and short. I will say this too. This was this is something that I put out on Twitter. Right? This was a trade that I was in yesterday. I think it's very important, and I'll just spend a quick minute here, although I've talked about this now a couple times, but it's just very important right now. And I think the way that this market is that you understand that you have to trade with stops. Right. I will say, some of the lessons that I've learned over the years, and that's why I do, these videos at the end of the day for free. Right. And that's why I, run a trading room. I spend a lot of time trying to help traders. But, really one of the things that I see traders having to get over is the ability to admit when they're wrong. And this is just a good example. I talked about this earlier in the week, getting over that ability to admit that you've gotten something wrong in a trade, right? It is something that you need to get secure about in your trading, to be able to say, hey, I'm going to get, sometimes 50 or 40% or 45% of my trades wrong. Right. But as long as I'm playing the averages, it's going to work out for me to be a profitable trader. Right. So, this is a good example. Right. So if we go back to yesterday to rehash this a little bit. Right. So here was my starting position, 66. I entered at 66, stop was 64, right? So I entered right on the break of the value area, right? So just to rehash, go through this trade. Because again, it's good to talk about how to manage the losers. I really think that it will separate how well you manage the losers, will separate whether or not you're going to be a profitable trader or not. So here it took a target 68. Right, that was target number one. Target number 269. I just missed the third target. You could see it hit a high of, I was trying to hit $70. So that's a little bit unlucky, right? And then I did have an alert go off where my stop was 64, right? Stop was 64. I actually, the market was moving pretty quick yesterday. So I actually got out of this at 63.50, which is a little bit lower than my cost basis, so I lost a little bit, right, on the end of the trade, on the last third of the trade, right? So that's a bummer, right? But look at where it is today, right? So again, it's important, right? And I had to sell it like right in here on this, right? So again, that happened pretty quickly. But it is what it is, right? You live to fight another day. Like even if you gave back a little bit more, which I did on the last portion of the trade, it would have been better. I was watching this thing yesterday, and I didn't know if it was going to hold the breakout. It obviously didn't. And once we got into the next hour, it moved pretty quickly. But again, this is so important because you're going to see names. You're going to see this happen. AMD is another good example, right? AMD looked great coming into this week. It did hit resistance. It hit the top of value, and you had a reversal day yesterday. That was a little bit of a clue. But on a broker downgrade, the stock shouldn't be falling 8%. Right. So again, this is one of those names that everybody talks about. And I think it's sometimes it's harder to be in these really popular FinTwit names. But I hope that people, now this was tough. Right. The one of the hardest things to do, I think, I was not in this name, but I'm just kind of showing an example. One of the hardest things to happen too is when a name does this and then it gaps down the next day and then it just keeps selling off. What I've been trying to get better at as a trader, when it gaps down, we all want to see if it recovers. Right. Sometimes it's the best thing just to say, hey, this is not what I was looking for in the stock. Let me get out of it. And I'll reassess. I'll take a look at it. And if it starts to recover, you could always get back into it, but you save yourself from getting washed out on a day like this. All right, guys, that's it. So again, just a couple of trading lessons. Why I go over the losers is A, no one else does, right? And how to help manage them. B, I think they're really going to, these examples, of like how to manage this situation, I think could really make or break your day, your week, your month, right? There's too many traders I see on FinTwit that are stubborn. They don't ever sell unless it's a profit. That's a recipe for disaster if the market acts more of what we saw this year versus 2020. And I don't think that this market is going to go back to the 2020 times. I think that you're going to have to be a disciplined trader in order to make it at this game and to do well at it. You could be a hobby for you. That's fine too. But if you're serious about this and trying to make money, you've got to be a disciplined trader. All right, guys, have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.